Okay, hello everybody again. I'm back again. Today is Saturday, which is July the 23rd. And as I promised, I was going to be speaking on topics in regards to the paranormal, occult, and supernatural. And so we're going to proceed to go into the topic for today. The topic for today is time travel, believe it or not. So I'm going to start off by saying, well, what is the definition of time? As I have here in this search, it says the indefinite continued progress of existence and events in the past, present, and future regarded as a whole. A point of time as measured in hours and minutes past midnight or noon, time as allotted, available, or used. Okay, so what is the Bible's definition of time? True, the Bible teaches us that time is a resource and a stewardship for which we are all responsible before God. But if we are not careful, we can fail into the trap or fall into the trap of the Western mindset, which sees time strictly from the utilitarian standpoint, where performance and accomplishments or doing something productive is the all important goal. Okay. So, in essence, the topic for today is time travel. Time travel. We have all heard about stories of time travel, and many times we depict that as what? Science fiction, myth, mythology, nothing that you can give much credence to, or even pay much attention to. But I'm going to give you my take on what time travel is. I did a I did a podcast a few months back where I discussed reincarnation and what I believe reincarnation was. And I said it was a spiritual renewing, is what I said reincarnation was. Like, energy does not die, it simply remanifests itself back into a different form. That's what I mentioned about reincarnation. You may refer to as soul renewing, or a change in personality, or whatever the case may be. But time travel, as we would see with Back to the Future, the Back to the Future with, Michael J. Fox and all, and, they get in this little car and they go back in time. And, as you begin to look at things in this time and space, like the movies and stuff we watch, oftentimes we watch the movies, and a lot of times many people don't give much thought to what they're watching. But if you see it in a spiritual sense, meaning watching it with your spiritual eyes, this is God by way of, like, this is God in spirit by way of, and you will begin to see how a lot of these things are being done to give us enlightenment about life, and it's being done without thought. It's under his guidance to give us understanding, and in your due time will you be able to grasp it. I'm not saying that you're stupid. God gives us inclination. We all, most of us, have common sense, common knowledge. We will all be stupid about something. We will all be right about something, smart about something. I mean, that's the way it works. But this is beyond common sense, common knowledge. So I've also mentioned that in the present, you will notice the past and the future sits right here in the present if you simply pay attention. Okay. So, in regards to time travel, um, he gave me inclination that time travel is basically what energy means. It is basically what spirits operate out of. Energy, spirits, as we refer to them as, they operate on a timetable. So many times these spirits, when they manifest in our time and space, that's exactly what they're doing. They're operating on a timetable. And oftentimes, they have a high energy force. Like if they was real powerful, a powerhouse or a power source, they have the ability to manifest in our time and space. That's what they're doing. They're time travel. Kind of like when you hear about Christmas and Scrooge, the video about Scrooge where he time traveled and things of the sort, and he was brought back in time and shown. That's basically life's review, is what that is. Where you begin to see things in a different standpoint and things of the sort. So that's basically what that is. Now, the reason why I'm speaking on this topic today, because I made a comment in a couple of the episodes that I did when I mentioned about some people that are here in this life experience. There is no concept of money in their reality. And I give you an example as to what I'm talking about. So their time is valuable. Like that's how they measure value, is by time. Versus you have some people that measure value by things and aesthetics. And it's nothing wrong necessarily one way or the other, but this is something that was brought into my spirit over my conquest when I received my spiritual awakening. Says that in my reality, time is my money. This is how I value life, by way of time. I'm only here for a certain amount of time. And this is the reality in my world. I measure value by time. I am on a ticking time table. It also made it apparent to me that many of these spirits, many of the other plane or the other realm or the parallel universe, work on a vibration, work on a different sensitivity to this existence. So on yesterday, it thunderstormed over the last couple of days out of the blue. And the thunderstorms are different. To me, it sounds more or less like an amphitheater, like you would be in an amphitheater, and it seems as though you're in a stadium, and it resonates, and it did a bit boom. And this was on yesterday. It had to be in the evening sometime. I mean, it shook the ground. It was that permeating. And as it did it, I was not afraid. I wasn't frightened. In my eye, my mind's eye, this is beyond imagination. In my mind's eye, I seen a cylinder go from the heavens down into the earth. It was a cylinder, and it was a vortex. So a vortex is more or less kind of like a point, but it wasn't a point. It was more a cylinder, and I began to see a swirling, similar to how a tornado would be, but it was cylinder. It wasn't triangular, more or less how a tornado. Even though I haven't seen with my own eyes, but I've seen the images when I watched the weather reports or whatever. You have tornadoes that's triangular shape or whatever, and then you have some that are spherical. So it's more or less spherical. It was a spherical in my mind's eye from the heavens to the earth. And as I seen it, it was a whole bunch of souls swirling around. Whoosh. I kid you not. And that's when I knew right then many of these spirits has been summoned. And so in essence, this is what God made it apparent to me what certain people feel and see, particularly when those taunting spirits begin to call for them. It's very intimidating. It's nothing to laugh about. It's nothing to make fun of. It's nothing to be sarcastic about. It is real. It's just as real as I'm sitting here talking to you today. I have no reason to make nothing up. I have no reason to lie. I'm not being sponsored. I'm not asking for no donations or anything. I'm not the type of person to try to be on Front Street to get attention. Because a lot of people, I don't even think 5 people know about this podcast. Be honest with you. And so, in essence, it showed me all of the spirits. And this is what happens when they manifest in our time and space. That is no joke. I'm not trying to make you paranoid. I'm not trying to make you afraid. But this is what a lot of many of people feel when they say doves cry. This is exactly what that is. And I began to feel like I'm getting goosebumps right now because the songs that was being sung by a lot of these celebrities, people listened to them, but they didn't feel it. They didn't understand exactly what those songs was talking about. This is what it feels like when doves cry. That means when the thunder permeates and the tears come down, meaning the raindrops come down to the ground and hit the ground. This is the angels falling down. That's what that is. This is the spirits of the angels falling down. And this is what it's like when that transition is about to occur. It's a scary, spooky feeling. And oftentimes when you feel that, you have more of a choice. But I think, as I mentioned on yesterday, many Christians are tired. I feel like many Christians are tired, not just Christians. I was just focused on Christians on yesterday, but I do feel as though many people are tired, not just Christians. It just so happened that I, spoke about Christians on yesterday. Many people are tired. And time travel. You would get those spirits from the past. You would get those spirits in the future, futuristic, and they will come into this time and space. And when you are sensitive to their energy, a lot of times you would just know when they're guided by a spirit or a force. You know how they say that they use the term or use the saying when they say, "Ooh, look what the wind blowed in." Because many times you would know what spirit would present to you if the eyes has been opened. So in essence, I just did a daily tarot card reading where I mentioned about, I felt like it was applicable to someone who was in a cult or a cult-like organization that brainwashed him or her and shunned them and made them to feel ashamed and exploited them. That's what I mentioned. When you have been, when those spirits come at you, because that's essentially what it is. We are all energy force, whether it be favorable or unfavorable. Once you summons your ancestors to shield you and protect you from any injury, harm, or danger, you're going to understand what it means when it says, don't call upon my name in vain. They're watching you. Simple as that. Simple as that. They're watching you. And when you hear those booms and dooms, sometimes they're not within the house and all of this other stuff, they want you to know that they are around. We are still here. So don't come over here and, have me to hold your hand today, and then tomorrow I'm the worst thing on the man. No, that's not how they work. So in essence, when you have things that occur, that's time travel. They are on a time travel. There's no concept of money. There's no concept of time is valuable. And oftentimes, they come, it's a life force. It's a powerful energy force. And it can be very intimidating. It could be very intimidating. And one thing I find to be very significant, I was out driving out about today. No one knew I was going to be on that side of the city. I seen a ladder. And I think that was it. I mean, I seen a ladder. It just, I know you may say, okay, what's the big deal? Well, the ladder was in an odd place, but I did see a ladder. And it gave me confirmation about what I experienced in my third eye. A spherical vortex. That's the only way I can explain it. When that boom, 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 happened on yesterday. Um, it's a power source. It's a power force and a power source. Is what that is. And it got to me, like I tell my children, I say, I was taught when I was younger, when God is doing his work, you just be quiet and remain still. So we proceeded to, turn off all, tablets, phones, TVs, and rested. Because I can rest very well in thunder. I mean, I get spooked by lightning. I do. But thunder is trembling to my soul, like it's a tremble within my soul. It is. And so, getting back to what I was saying about time travel. So, basically, that's what that is. If you begin to take note of images, if you begin to take note of programs, this is the spirit of God. God will put things into you, and you would just walk into a room and look at a show that was 20 years old, 30 years old, and it's just like he's speaking directly to you. That is the reason why they don't want you to alter, or they try to alter certain individuals' styles, because they would begin to think that they are still around and they have did a updated version that looks old to mess with you. No, no, they have not. This is called a spiritual awakening. This is called God. That's what that's called. Them people don't even know you, but God does. And they were simply a vessel. That's what that was. And so this is why we have, where they want to alter your appearance to make sure that you're not trying to look young so you can come back and play a trick on them. And who is they? You may hear me always speak about they and them and all of that and stuff. I'm speaking about spirits. They are not all on the same page. You have a different, just like we have social classes here, it works the same way in that other time and space. It does. It does. So let me just pull up some information that I have here. So it says 15 real life stories of time travel that will creep you out. Well, a wing commander enters a parallel dimension during a flight. It says one day in 1935, Victor Goddard, a commander from British Royal Air Force, was flying to Edinburgh, and during the flight, he passed over a decrepit airfield in Durham, Scotland. All that Goddard saw from above was a lonely farm and some cattle. A few days later, on his way back to England, he took the same route. However, his plane was caught in a storm, and with all the rolling and swinging going on, the pilot got so disoriented that he lost control of the machine for some minutes. Fortunately, the storm ended as unexpectedly as it started. He regained control and was hoping to be able to get the plane back on the right track by following some familiar landmarks on the ground. He looked down, expecting to see airfield as he sensed he was approaching it, but what he saw left him totally flabbergasted. The airfield was renovated for brand new planes, painted yellow, sat on the runway, and some mechanics in blue overalls were attending to them. All of a sudden, the storm hit back again, and raining clouds swarmed Goddard's machine. The guy got lucky once again and managed to land safely at his home base. So it says his friends back then were very skeptical about this incredible story, but 40 years later, convinced as he was what he saw. It has a book here, Flight Towards Reality. Okay, so story 14, Soldier John Titor's time travel myth. So it mentions about, I think I'm going to skip around. I'm not going to go into any, a lot of these. I'm going to skip to 13. Benedict Monk invents the chronovisor and witnesses Christ's crucifixion. Of all believers on the face of the earth, it said there was a person who bet never had even slightest whiff of doubt about Christ's existence. That would be Father Pellegrino Ernetti, who was a Roman Catholic Benedict monk who claimed to have observed the Last Supper and later watched Christ dying on the cross. The device he was using was a self-crafted chronovisor, a kind of time machine that enables you to follow past events in real time. In 97, Peter Crosser published a book about the monk's life and invention. The biographer included also an appendix with an excerpt from an allegedly lost plate of Quintus Ennius, which Father Ernetti insisted to have attended during one of his time travels with the chronovisor. So it says he was pressured to produce some evidence in support of his claims, but when he produced a photo of Jesus on the cross, supposedly taken through a device, everybody recognized a striking resemblance to a piece of art by Claude Valera. Ernetti then had no other choice but to admit the photo was fake. However, to the end of his life, which was in 1994, he never took his words back about the existence of the chronovisor. Okay, so hear me out. I would be one to tell you, I don't have to be a scholar or priest or monk or nun to know that a lot of when you have put on those clothes, on those remnants of adornment and sacred clothing, and call yourself a monk or priest or whomever, nun or whomever, that the eyes has been opened and engaged to a world that you can ever imagine. So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, he did not see, because I will tell you, I'll be first to tell you, I do believe he did. I do. I do believe that he was able to go back in time, because I've done it. I was sitting here doing just doing one of my podcasts, and he would put the vision in you, and you begin to see. You will have remote vision. That's basically the same thing. Remote vision, where you sit here and you could see in your mind's eye. And this is not imagination. Imagination, more or less, is when you have control over what you're thinking about or what have you. Remote viewing or even time travel, well, time travel is more or less like an open vision where everything around you has changed. Remote vision viewing, and I think I would do a topic on that, because I think I did the topic on that before. I may not, I don't know. But, where you're able to just, it's kind of like a bird's eye view, like you're seeing through the eyes of a bird, or you're seeing through the eyes of whoever, somebody, So I do believe that he experienced that. Okay, so number 12, it says the businessman who took the highway to the 1940s. In 88, it says there was a story published in Strange Magazine, which claimed, based on a true event that took place in October of 1969, where two business associates were traveling from a small town in Louisiana towards Lafayette along the most traffic-free highway in 167. At some point, they noticed a retro-looking turtleback type of car ahead of them, which has a license plate with the year of 1940 on it. What they observed when they shortened the distance between the cars was that the woman behind the wheel was all dressed in a 1940 style clothing, driving along the vintage car. They could see there was a small girl on the passenger seat next to her, and the woman had an impression of planet written on her face. They gestured at her to pull over so they could help. She nodded approvingly and began the maneuver. The two businessmen passed slowly by her, but when they halted on the side of the road and turned to look at the other vehicle, it was nowhere to be seen. The car with the scared woman and the child had simply vanished into thin air. The story has an even more mysterious twist ending. So it says some newspapers from the 1940s reported the bizarre disappearance of a mother and her kid. So could this very well be that they are driving into some type of movie set? Could very well be, somebody didn't get the memo and we driving into a movie set. That's reason and logic from our understanding. You're going to begin to understand that energy is real. And a lot of times, what happens here happens there, parallel universe. So when we see these movies and things that are taking place, they're being done by way of a spirit. So this is to throw you off. I did a episode on spiritual sense when I mentioned about technology, the devices that we use, cameras, phones, tablets, PCs. All of this technology is to throw us off as to how spirit and spirituality work. The biggest trick the devil ever pulled is what convincing the world he did not exist. This is to throw you off. So a lot of times you'll find people are trying to cover up for these spirits, because when you begin to speak about something you can't see or you don't know, the first thing people are going to say is what? You're crazy. Or you what? On drugs. Or you what? You this, you that. So they're going to blame it on something. So that's basically what that is they're trying to cover for these spirits. But that's exactly what that is. Okay. Now we're going to proceed with the next story. Okay, number 11, the Seattle attorney who was sent by the U.S. government on multiple time travels. So his name is Andrew Basiago, and he claims that as a child, he was recruited to participate in a secret U.S. government program for inventing a space-time hologram machine and teleportation technology. Well, the program under the code name Project Pegasus and ran from 68 to 72. So he's a lawyer that specializes in controversy subject of exopolitics, insists on having experienced 8 trips during the time of his time with Pegasus. He further claims that his travels were executed through the means of teleportation device, which was built following the instructions allegedly found in the New York apartment of Nikola Tesla. So right now we do know that they do have hologram presentations in regards to celebrities who have passed on. I read back, some time ago that, that there were going to be some deception in the second coming by way of blue lights and holograms in the sky to deceive people. This is God this is God letting you know, what do you think of this? If you know me, you will know that this is not of me. Now, I know that may sound hypocritical. I said God is what? The supreme being of all beings. I said there are many gods and goddesses out here, but ultimately he is the what? Supreme being of all being. You are tested. You are tempted on a day-to-day basis. So he will put things in front of you to catch your eye. Okay. Now, does that sound right to you? If you let that be your reality, then that's what it's going to be. Okay, number 10, the only survivor of the Philadelphia experiments. Okay, so it mentions about in 1943, there was a U.S. Navy launching an experiment in Philadelphia aiming at making military ships invisible to the radar of the enemies. This was achieved by wrapping massive Tesla coils around a ship and function as electromagnetic generators. And when activated, they created a electromagnetic field that would stretch out and divert the radar waves from the ship. So in other words, I'm not even going to go too much farther in this. This is just basically letting you know how these spirits, I'm not even going to it all, are unseen. The battle you will begin to see is in the mind. What you accept as your reality will be that. That's to sum that up. Swedish man meets his 72-year-old self in 2042. Again, you will begin to see God in us all. You will begin to see God in everything, living thing in life. And whether it be favorable or unfavorable. I mean, I've experienced this all the time. I can go to somebody, or I could be around somebody, and it's like watching myself as an altar. And they don't necessarily have to look like me, but somehow they have that same essence of me. It's creepy. Number 8, 2 female academics saw Marie Antoinette live in 1901. Again, this is getting back to what I mentioned about reincarnation. this right here will perpetuate you to read the book, Eve. If you read that book, it's about a woman who was I can't remember all of the book now because that was some 30 years ago that I read it. But it was a good book to read. It's a good read. And I feel as though they back then they referred to as multiple personality disorder, but now we say dissociative identity disorder is what they say in mental health. This is spirits. This is simply what this is. These are spirits, empath, picking up on different spirits, many facets of a person. And it's to give you enlightenment about something. That's what that is. Number 7, man claims he comes from a country nobody has ever heard of. Again, spirits. I'm not even going to go into details about this because what they have deemed to be all of the continents or all of the land space. I heard the other day that only 5%, I want to say 5% of, and I could have that wrong. It's a very small percentage of the ocean that has actually been discovered. So who's to say that what we agreed upon is actually correct in terms of the geography? As things get more farther advanced, we get farther along, God revealed things to you in stages. So who's to say that the massive lands ain't more often what it is? This is only what we can, in our time and space, will be able to grasp. We cannot fathom the countless amount of things that are out there. There are far more planets than 8. Back when I was a kid, they said Pluto was a planet. Then they turned around, when I got in my 20s, and they said, well, Pluto is not a planet, it's a star. So who's to say? You never know. A woman becomes paralyzed after witnessing a ritual taking place in the 17th century. So it says, there's a Makawasi stone forest in Lima, Peru. The stones resemble very much human faces, and they do. No geologist is 100% certain how exactly these stone structures were formed. Some people, however, believe they may be a door to another time and dimension. The story of a 30-year-old woman suffering from hemiplegia can be proof. It says she was a patient of a renowned doctor and investigator of the paranormal in Peru, and to whom she revealed that her condition could be somehow connected with a camping incident that had taken place in the vicinity of Makawasi a couple of years before. She went exploring the area with some friends and then eventually came across a small, meagerly lit stone cabin from the inside of which loud chanting was common. Curious as she was, she stuck her head through the open door, and what she saw through her absolute bewilderment. It said that people who were chanting and dancing were dressed in 17th century fashion. She made a move to go inside the cabin, but her friends pulled her out when she had half entered. Apparently not quite on time, because at that moment half her body became paralyzed. I'm going to tell you, I'm looking at this and you can see like some figurines. It doesn't necessarily show like an actual face. You have a part of it that's like a face. I'm going to say this. And in essence, even with the pyramids, people wonder how the pyramids came about. They came with all these theoretical hypotheses as to how. it showed me that it was a stone, and over the course of time, they began to, oddly enough, part of it go in a triangular shape. I'll give you an example. You know, I knocked up against the wall with my chair, and the paint chipped off in the heart. So, this is God. I mean, something, and trust me, I am not. Hear me out. I am not denouncing this here. I'm not. I'm letting you know how spirit works. I'm not saying anything against people bringing this information up, because I'm telling you, I'm just letting you know how God operates and how he works. It says, number 5, the British tourists who stayed at a non-existent hotel in France. In 1979, 2 British couples were driving through northern France on their way to Spain looking for a place to spend the night. Eventually, they drove into a building that looked like a motel. Only the men stand in front of it smoking hurried to inform them it was an inn. As everything inside the inn seemed pretty old-fashioned, no phones, no other modern conveniences whatsoever. The tourists logically concluded it had to be an attraction, a theme hotel of some sort that was supposed to make the guests feel as if they were in the 19th century. During breakfast the next morning, they were attended by 2 men in cape uniforms with a solemn expression on their faces. After paying the ridiculously small bill of 19 francs, the couples left for Avignon. After 2 weeks in Spain, they decided to follow the same route on their journey back and to stay at the same motel. Not only because it was so cheap, but also because they enjoyed the out-of-date atmosphere. Imagine their confusion when they found the exact spot, but the building wasn't there, and the photos they had taken during their stay at the hotel didn't develop. How odd is that? That is supernatural. That's spiritual. Okay, journalists experiencing the bombing of Hamburg 11 years earlier. Okay, I'm gonna explain something, and I think this right here is precognition. God will put things into your being prior to it actually manifesting in your space. And I think what happened with this is it was an actual building that was there, and they visited and they stayed there, and it could very well be that they knocked it down and cleared it up. It don't take no time to do that. But I feel as though many people here, once they have become spiritual renewed, this is that energy. This is like when you're questioning things, that's what entertainment and music and the arts come from, is to give you an inclination about what happened in a time and space. They're feeling that energy. They have been renewed and restored to tell on a time and space. Now, sometimes deception may come in, if it's something that may be unfavorable, but and as I speak, I'm speaking about, a picture comes to mind where it said back in the 19, I can't remember exactly the time frame, back in the New England area, they were taking through, you know, the increments out the window on the ground. That was something that was common back then. So of course, God will have a way of covering up certain things that are not right. Okay, so we're going to skip over to number 2, a Swiss watch discovered in ancient tombs sealed 400 years ago. Okay, I'm gonna bypass that one. A Scottish woman witnessing a battle that took place in 685 AD. I do believe that this is when you're an inquisitive person, hear me out. I mean, even in us everyday walks of life people, when somebody is curious, we all want somebody particularly that has a true interest in something that we know, and we want to enlighten them in things. It works the same way in that spiritual realm or the paranormal or the unseen. They are the same way. So if you're curious about something, they will use, because a lot of those spirits are disembodied. And when you're sensitive to their energy, they can take form over you, and you begin to spirit channel or even conjure those spirits, and they will give you inclination as such. And again, this is what being a movie star or actress is all about. It is. It is. So, anyways, I am going to close out this episode on spiritual sense, speaking about time travel. Time travel is real. It's basically when the spirits from, or the energy of the spirits, the life force, begins to manifest in this time and space. Once you summons them, this is why a lot of people want to separate church from state or religion, and they try to put you in a cult like type of setting where they control what you think, feel, and say, because it's very powerful. And this is why you have the different religions and the different sects and the different things to go about, because manipulation of that in the wrong hands can be very detrimental. Okay. So this is why the difference of different variations in languages, dialects, and stuff is to deceive the spirits, and to continue to keep the spirits from what? Gaining power and mishandling that power. Okay. So I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Spiritual Sense. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you're more than welcome to comment below. Until then, you have a safe and wonderful day. Good day.